Pinned down in enemy territory, the Navy SEALs had no way out. Ammunition was running low, enemy fighters were closing in, and rescue seemed impossible. Then, from a position no one thought could work, she raised her rifle, aimed at a target no one else dared attempt, and pulled the trigger. That single shot changed everything. The sun had already begun its slow descent when the SEALs realized the mission had gone wrong. What was supposed to be a quick extraction had turned into a fight for survival deep inside hostile territory. Dust clung to their gear, sweat stung their eyes, and the air vibrated with the staccato crack of enemy gunfire. Every man in the team knew they were in a kill zone, boxed in with no easy way out. They had entered the valley under cover of night, moving fast and low to secure vital intelligence. The approach was clean, precise, just as their training demanded. But as dawn crept over the ridgeline, so did enemy reinforcements. Within minutes, the SEALs were surrounded on all sides by fighters who knew the terrain better than anyone. Pinned down behind shattered rocks and crumbling mud walls, the team returned fire, but the math was simple and terrifying. The enemy had numbers. The SEALs had skill, but skill wasn't always enough against overwhelming firepower. The team leader barked orders into the radio, his voice steady even as bullets shredded the dirt around him. Hold positions. Conserve ammo. Reinforcements are en route. But deep down, every man knew the truth. Reinforcements might never get there in time. Somewhere a little farther back, in a position deliberately chosen for support, sat someone who had barely spoken all morning. She wasn't supposed to be the centerpiece of this mission. Her role was overwatch, eyes on the ridges, scanning for threats, keeping the team informed. Her call sign was simple, clean, almost forgettable. But when she adjusted the scope of her rifle, her world narrowed to a single line of clarity, even as chaos thundered below. She didn't waste words. She never did. The SEALs respected her for that. Where others might talk, she listened. Where others might hesitate, she calculated. And while the firefight raged, she tracked every flicker of movement above the rocks, every muzzle flash, every shadow that dared to shift. The trap was closing. Ammunition clips were emptying fast. The team leader counted only minutes before the ridge would be lost completely. That's when he looked back toward her position, not with desperation, but with something unspoken, the acknowledgement that their survival might rest in hands no one expected. The impossible was looming. And she was the only one who saw it coming. The enemy's advantage was brutal and relentless. From elevated positions along the ridges, every move the SEALs made was tracked, every attempt at cover scrutinized. Bullets ripped through walls of rock and splintered the earth around them. Communication was fragmented, punctuated by shouts, the distant crackle of automatic fire, and the hum of tension that filled the air. Inside the chaos, the team leader assessed the situation. One by one, he calculated the risks, flanking maneuvers, suppressive fire, retreat paths, all closed off. The SEALs were trained for high-pressure scenarios, but training didn't prepare anyone for being trapped in such an open, exposed valley with enemies surrounding them like wolves. Meanwhile, she remained still, calm, and almost invisible. Her rifle rested lightly on her shoulder as she scanned the battlefield. Every movement had a pattern. Every enemy had a rhythm. Her mind moved faster than her heartbeat, analyzing distances, wind, angle, and trajectory. The impossible shot she would soon have to take was not just difficult, it was considered by all experts as borderline miraculous. Her teammates, aware of her presence but unsure of her potential in this dire moment, focused on survival. One SEAL whispered to another, "She's just overwatch, how can she?" But the words died as another volley of fire tore through their position. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Sweat and dust coated their faces, and every breath became a negotiation between life and fear. Their enemy pressed harder, sensing their desperation, closing the trap tighter with each passing moment. From her vantage point, she saw an opportunity no one else did. A narrow window between two ridges, partially obscured by jagged rocks, allowed a line of sight to the enemy commander, the one coordinating the assault. Taking him out could disrupt the entire operation, buying the SEALs precious time. But the shot was nearly impossible. Distance, elevation, wind, and movement all stacked against her. The slightest error would mean failure, and with failure, death. Her fingers adjusted the scope, her breathing slowed, and her mind became a singular focus. Every SEAL down below was counting, unaware that the only chance for survival depended on her. It was no longer a role of observation. It was a test of precision, nerves, and courage. One shot could save them all, but only if she trusted her instincts and her training fully. The impossible was no longer hypothetical. It was about to happen. The valley held its breath. Below, the seals clung to cover, unaware that the thin line between life and death rested on a single person perched silently above. Her heart beat steadily, each pulse a metronome guiding her focus. Every instinct, every calculation, every training exercise she had endured led to this exact second. She adjusted the scope one last time, factoring in the wind that whispered through the canyon and the subtle sway of the rifle on her shoulder. The target moved, a slight shift that could ruin everything. She waited, calculating the perfect intersection of timing, distance, and trajectory. Then, as if the world itself paused, she pulled the trigger. The shot cracked through the valley with a sharpness that silenced the surrounding chaos for a heartbeat. Her eyes followed the bullet's invisible path, and then the impossible happened. It hit. Down below, the enemy commander collapsed, and confusion rippled through the opposing forces. Orders went unheeded, their formation fractured, and their morale shattered. The SEALs, once pinned and desperate, recognized the sudden shift in the battlefield. The tide had turned. Against all odds, their escape and survival were now possible. The team leader's eyes widened as he looked toward her position. Words weren't needed. Every SEAL understood. The impossible had been done. What they had thought of as luck or chance was, in reality, an extraordinary combination of skill, patience, and courage. She didn't just make a shot. She changed the outcome of the mission, the fate of every life in that valley. Even as the SEALs regrouped and pushed forward, adrenaline coursing through their veins, her calm presence remained. No celebration, no boasting, just the quiet certainty that she had done what no one else could. The impossible shot was no longer a concept. It was history, etched into the memory of every person who witnessed it. And as they moved to safety, the truth settled over them. The team had survived, not because of overwhelming firepower or sheer luck, but because one person saw a way when no one else did, and had the courage to take it.